this is another lesson in knowing that the best thing to do when things don't go your way is let go of your idea of how they should be, trusting that you may not know the big picture, because everything happens for complex reasons, and there are so many factors involved, even in a flight: the health of the pilot, the weather, the condition of the plane, the other traffic routes that are at jeopardy because your flight is delayed, people's plans, and all the time we're only thinking of ourselves. So in any case, this gave me some time now to speak to you and continue our conversation around you are the universe, discovering your cosmic self and why it matters. And the book's being read by many people, and I'm very grateful to all of you. And today's question comes from Susan. And Susan says, I would like to ask what to do about feeling quote-unquote homesick, not feeling like you belong in this world, wanting to return to God and the angels, and making peace with the destiny of this world, and that my idealistic visionary way of seeing is not everyone's. I have moments of feeling home when I feel so connected to them, and I feel the overwhelming love and acceptance of them. Then I have to return to the mundane world and those who don't see or understand me. I try to keep my thinking on as high a vibration as I can with many forms of holistic and spiritual practices, but because I deal with depression and complex PTSD, it is hard sometimes to do this. It is sometimes more of an existential depression, feeling like I'm not doing my job here to the best of my ability, seeking meaning and peace in all that has happened, so I can continue to ascend and be the teacher I'm here to be, trying to remember to separate from the ego and to know others have free will to choose and decide what they want to experience. I think part of it is trying too hard to be perfect and knowing I can't, because I'm in a human body. I can't make others see me as I am or listen to the messages that I'm here to send about love and light and peace and cooperation with all beings. That sounds egotistical, but it isn't about me, capital M-E. It is about the message. I'm only the vehicle, the emissary. Some lady once said I was an emissary and getting too caught up in the human condition and forgetting my job as messenger, and so got depressed and homesick. She was so right. I know everyone is where they are in their development, but I want them to see the truth and let in the light, and maybe the wanting so much for everyone to be who they can be is ego impatience. I'm learning to just relay the messages and let it be. I used to work as a special ed teacher, and now I do healing work, and sometimes I feel like I'm surrounded by special ed students and have to be patient. I know a lot of this is ego and learning to be comfortable in the human body with imperfection. Though the memory of home and love is so strong, it's hard to be here. I really think a lot of this is just trying to make peace with being in a body instead of just free spirit. I have not had an issue with remembering I'm spirit. I have had more trouble with being in a body in a dense world. Thank you. So I think what Susan is displaying is what has been called in many spiritual traditions, but attributed to first to St. John of the Cross, the phrase called dark night of the soul, or we can even say existential angst, a kind of a deep feeling of anxiety, dread, typically not focused on any one thing but on the human condition or the state of the world. So it is a relatively common experience for those who who are on the spiritual path. I think Eckhart Tolle talks about it in his lectures and in his book as well. Dark Night of the Soul, the poem, was written somewhere around 1577 to 1579, when St. John of the Cross was in prison in Toledo in Spain. And it's a beautiful poem. I remember a few stanzas. In an obscure night, fevered with love's anxiety, O hapless, hopeless plight, forth from my house where all things quiet be. So, for anyone who's in the existential doldrums, this sounds very evocative and is also kind of very nostalgic, because we all at some point feel that homesickness for a return to our source. The question that Susan has posed is filled with many judgments about herself and about the world as well. And in many ways, the answer to her dilemma is not through a system of thought, be it religion or theology or even a scientific understanding of how things work. Her existential dilemma is, of course, mixed up with other kinds of depression, PTSD, and complex PTSD, as she calls it. So I don't have all the details, but let me just address the issue of existential angst, existential doldrums, dark night of the soul. There comes a time in our spiritual seeking, in some of us, and it's happened to me as well, that everything appears meaningless, and the pursuit of human beings for mindless success, for mindless activity, for mindless behavior in general, leading to immense human suffering, violence, and destruction and abuse gets to the point that the experience of watching that gets to a point that it leads to almost a nihilism and a depression and an anxiety about the essential meaninglessness of life. After all, if science tells us that there are 2 trillion planets, 700 sextillion stars, trillions and trillions upon trillions of planets, and that we are microbes of a speck of dust in a mindless void in what we have created, the junkyard of infinity, then of course that can lead to deep anxiety, depression, meaningless. And that's what meaninglessness, and that's what existential doldrums are all about, and the dark night of the soul is about. So here are some suggestions to Susan and to anyone who's experiencing this. Number one, realize that thinking about this is not going to solve the problem. So try not to analyze this too much. Try and be still. Franz Kafka once said words to the effect that learn to be still and quiet, and then the world will freely offer itself to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. So first of all, try and be still and silent. Whatever your method is, spend some time in stillness through meditation, self-reflection, transcendence, and mindful awareness of sensory experience and mindful awareness of choice, what I've previously called metacognition. That's number one. Number two, try not to judge, label, evaluate, analyze, describe everything that you experience, because all your labels are just human constructs that have been programmed into human consciousness for thousands of years, and they are basically thoughts that are recycling through you, and they don't belong to you. They belong to the collective conditioned mind, which is recycling through you. Number three, try and spend time in nature and in silence in nature, and connect to the source by being in touch with that activity of the source of the universe that we call nature. Whether it's a forest or a desert or a mountain or by the ocean or in the wilderness, if you can, spend some time connecting with source energy. Number three, practice the law of giving. The more you give to others, the more you commit to a cause higher than yourself, the more that takes you away from your separate self. So I would say that's practicing the law of giving. Understand also, number four, that karma is what we're talking about right now. It's the collective conditioning of the human race, which, as I've said, has been recycled and in a way improved upon. The conditioning gets more and more deeper, and it's all kinds of conditioning: theological conditioning, philosophical conditioning, religious conditioning, economic conditioning, historical conditioning, parental conditioning, cultural conditioning. So, that is what karma is, and karma is overcome by first becoming aware of your conditioning, and then questioning every belief, every thought that you have, and asking yourself whether it is true. So that I would say is number four. Number five, know that if your life is one of resistance to what is, then you are resisting the flow of the universe. So try to be with the moment, without any anticipation, without any regrets, without any resistance. Be with what is. And when that happens, as I've said before, there's the experience of flow. There's effortless spontaneity, effortless creativity. There is richness of sensory experience. There's a lack of ego self. There is a sense of timelessness, and there is a synchronicity. So be without resistance. Number 6, or whatever the number is, focus on your deepest intentions. What do I really want in my life? And nurture them in your heart, but also detach from them. So once again, that is the principle of letting go and flow, but with subtle intention. What in wisdom traditions is called sankalpa, the Sanskrit word sankalpa, subtle intention. Um, so that leads to number 7, detach from outcome, stay in the process. And number 8, find your true calling, which is a return to your higher self and ultimately being one with the divine or with the source. So these are some ideas for you. I was, interestingly enough, yesterday watching a TED talk by a cognitive scientist by the name of Anil Seth from Sussex University in England, and he was basically saying through very elegant scientific reasoning that the world that we collectively experience as human beings is a hallucination produced by the brain. He said there are uncontrolled hallucinations that occur in people with psychosis, and there are controlled hallucinations in that the brain delivers to you what you have been conditioned to believe is out there. And since a lot of our conditioning is collective, then the brain delivers to the human brain. The human brain delivers to you a collective controlled hallucination. So while I found the talk by Anil Seth to be very interesting, I realized that he had also been bamboozled by the scientific construct of something called a brain. A brain is a perceptual experience like any other. It is a name that humans have given to an experience, a 3-pound shape and a color and a texture and a mass and a smell, if you want, a taste and texture as well. But it's been given this name brain, and it has now become that which delivers to us the collective controlled hallucination. But I would ask Anil Seth, isn't the brain itself a hallucination? Because it's also a perceptual experience like any other. And so are you using a hallucination to explain a hallucination? Are you using a dream to explain a dream? This is where scientific conditioning, while very useful for creating technology, actually takes us away from the truth. Ultimately, there is only existence and awareness of existence, and the two are synonymous. Now, how we define that existence as human beings is a construct. We take our experience of shape and color and call this a book, or this a watch, or this a bracelet, or this a body, or this inside a brain, and then we get bamboozled by our own constructs. And so we have to actually go a little bit beyond constructs, even scientific constructs, to understand reality as it is. And reality cannot be a construct. Reality can, of course, be only that which gives raw experience a concept, a construct, a meaning. Fundamentally, all the meaning that is there in your life is that which you have given to it. And the highest meaning, of course, is there is only spirit, there is only consciousness, there is only divine intelligence, there is only divinity, there is only God. And a deeper understanding of this divine being as fundamentally you, without all your constructs and without all your imposed meanings. It's you. Even that which we call the universe is you. So this is important to understand, and I am having to take a very... So I'm back here, and Susan, I hope I've answered your question. Yes, a lot of your questions are coming from the separate mind, from the ego mind. That is part of the hallucination. So be still and know that I am God is a beautiful expression, and it is true. It's true. Nothing that you can label, define, describe, give a name to is real. The label is a construct, a name and a description to an experience. The experience itself is a modified form of consciousness or awareness. Consciousness modifies itself as a thought, modifies itself as a feeling, modifies itself as an image, modifies itself as a sense perception, and then modifies itself into the interpretation of all this, which we call thought, and then creates the separate mind, the separate body, the separate brain, and the separate experience of the universe. It's a journey, and I can only say congratulations to anyone who has experienced the dark night of the soul, because at the end of the tunnel there is the light of the divine, the light of being, the light of awareness, which summons forth the world into manifestation. You are the light of awareness in which the universe, the entire universe, and the experience of the universe is arising and subsiding in every now. So thank you very much, and thank you for your wonderful comments. Shauna, thank you for sharing this video. I see that hundreds of people are sharing this video and sharing this conversation, and I'm very grateful to you that we can do this every day, so we can slowly begin to dismantle our constructs. This is a pencil because we agree to call it a pencil, otherwise it's a shape and a form. It's the act of seeing, and seeing cannot be separated from the seer, and the seer is awareness, and awareness is now knowing itself as this pencil or this body or this screen or this universe. Awareness knows itself as both subject and object of experience. Walter Murphy and 54 others, thank you for sharing this video. Thank you for all your love, and thank you for all the hearts, and thank you for all the shares, and thank you for all the comments. See, when we begin to see that which we call the other is me in a different disguise, in a different uniform, the uniform or mask being the body, then there is the birth of true love. That's what we are, that's who we are, love.